Well, I'm here with one of the most smiling faces in Australia this afternoon, Gabrielle Kuna. There was wonderful mare, Gostelow, who you've had massive success with in the time you've owned her, including Chris recently, who won the Equine Lifestyle Festival Grand Prix with her. But you've had your injury and you're back now. Can you try and describe what that feeling is like jumping around that World Cup track this afternoon?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I'm still a bit speechless. She was phenomenal. Leopoldo set a really tough track. You know, the first few riders went out and it was a bit of a cricket score, and I thought, well, look, you know, I'll just go out, ride my course to my plan that, you know, Chris and I made when we walked it and see what happens. And the mare just jumped out of her skin. She didn't put her foot wrong. She never felt like she was going to fault at any fence. And the second round she was great again, so I was really fortunate to come out on top and get that under my belt, and it's just a great feeling.
Riders tell me that they often do not start at the CSI-W World Cup end of year because it's such a tough track. You've been away for those, what was it, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, 4 months.
4 months with your injury there. You've come back, and not only have you competed in one of the toughest tracks of the whole year, you've won it and won it convincingly. I have to say, from my perspective, I've spoken to yourself winning the state title with this mare, with Chris having won a couple of Grand Prix with her. She's phenomenal. She is completely phenomenal. So then I put the question to Jamie Winning, who's just recently back from Europe. How good do you feel this mare is? And she says she's right up there. She's going to go well in Europe. I just interviewed Leopoldo, and he said, I feel that they will go so well together that they will become household names in the world. That's a pretty big call, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It means a lot coming from someone like Leopoldo. He's second to none in the world as a course designer, and he sees, you know, the top riders and top horses in the sport, and yeah, that means the world to me. Yeah, look, she is phenomenal, and nothing ever feels like it's going to be too much of a challenge or too big or too tough for her. You know, Chris was kind of put in the situation when I got kicked of just being thrown in the deep end, and he'd never ridden her at a show, so he took a while to get used to her, and, you know, had a few average shows and then some really good ones, but you know, I know her inside out, and I've always had that trust and belief in her, and I think she has that with me as well, and it just makes the job easy, you know.
Yeah, well, I just would like to pick you up on that, easy. I've coached a fair bit, as you well know, and I don't believe in push-button horses, and I don't believe in the horses that when they get to that level, it's all very well to talk about good horses, but good horses need good riders. And if you're not accurate, I mean, this fence behind me, final fence of the day, was 1.62 meters on a short 6 strides. If you're not up to riding at that level, which is more credit to you, Gabby, because you've done a fantastic job to come back and sit on this mare. Spoke to Rob Brown, and he made the comment to me, he said, you know, the mare goes better for Gabby than good Chris. Chris has done pretty damn well on her. Yeah. So there's a lot of people in your corner who want to see you do well on this mare. I have to ask you, when you bought her, because you didn't buy her with performance, what drew you to her in such a way that you were convinced you had to buy her?
Look, Chris has an amazing eye for a horse, and you know, I was quite a green rider, and I hadn't seen a lot of horses, you know, at that time going overseas to buy one. She was just what you see. She had talent. She was a sweet-natured, lovely mare. I wanted a mare. I didn't want to go over and have to buy a gelding or a stallion. And yeah, we were in the right place at the right time, and that was all thanks to Chris. And he could see the raw talent, and we took the punt and went with it. And you know, Chris has done wonders in just moulding us together and teaching me how to allow her to be herself and not, you know,
well, you do.
Put her in a position where she's going to scare herself or lose a jump or whatever. She's just, yeah, I owe it all to him for finding me the horse. So,
well, and let's face it, there are a lot of people in Europe, well, the day to day are looking for that style of horse. So people from Australia have gone across into the heart of the matter, into the big league, and dragged a horse like that. When I say dragged, you get what I'm saying, out of the system from under the people's noses. So well done to the pair of you. I watched you yesterday in the 1.50 meter. I was struck by your rhythm going into your combinations. Thought you rode exceptionally well out of your corners. But I do have to tell you something else. that talking to a few little people, including my own, who have been sending me text messages to say well done. But it occurred to me that there's a younger generation of would-be Australian show jumpers, 8, 9, 10-year-old, who are starting to look and idolise Gabby Kuna and this particular mare. So do you somehow get a feeling of that too, that you may all be setting a new benchmark?
Look, I get that feeling with Crystalline. Like, there's nothing not to like about her. You know, she's a lovable character on the ground, and she's just as lovely to watch. And you know, the past 4 months that I've been out and been able to actually watch my horse go with, you know, a top rider like Chris, I couldn't have asked for anything else. You know, it could have been so much worse, her sitting in the paddock and me not having a rider for her. So, you know, I know what everyone's looking at, and it gives me a great thrill to be able to show people what she can do.
Next year, 2016, you've already mentioned that Crystalline just comes under the age bracket of what is acceptable for an Olympic horse. She's a bit young, but clearly you are competing and playing with the idea of competing in Europe. Can you expand a little on that for us? Tell us what your plans are for next year.
Yeah, look, well, Chris and I are going to go to Europe. Chris is winning the World Cup League here, so his plan is to compete at the World Cup final in Gothenburg, and hopefully I'll be able to, you know, get into as many shows as I can over there and just give ourselves some international experience and get the ball rolling, and then, you know, enjoy the 6 or 7 months that we're in Europe. It's only going to be a short trip this year, but we'll be looking to bring both horses home and campaign for the next World Equestrian Games in Bromont in Canada. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be good just getting that experience overseas. I've worked and ridden overseas before, but never competed at a serious level, so it'll be a really good experience, I think, so I'm looking forward to it. Well,
I certainly, at the end of this year, from my perspective, I've thoroughly enjoyed, as I know thousands of people around the country have enjoyed watching you, and then come back from injury as well, watching you on this mare and Chris in between. So next year is a big year, particularly for Chris, obviously. He's trying to push for the stallion towards Rio, but it has been a magnificent year, and yes, I get a little bit emotional too when I see a mare like that and yourself come back with such skill, and it really is skill and brilliance. But the mare, I love mares over geldings. Something about mares that they have that bit of they want to die for you sort of attitude. So when you get a good one, you hang on to it. And I'm thinking to myself also, I bet there's a few checkbooks going to be floating around Europe next year when they see that mare perform. And it was interesting to hear that you say that you could consider the concept of bringing her back, but gosh, in this I was going to use the word cutthroat, but maybe it's not so cutthroat, but it's certainly competitive, ultra competitive show jumping world that exists today. I can't think that there won't be a few people half interested in trying to have her in their own stable. Have you thought about that at all? Or?
Yeah, I have. I know it's going to come to that. You know, it's what happens over there. It is very cutthroat. Everyone wants to try and have the best horse that they can, and people do go crazy with the checkbooks. And you know, I could try not to think about it too much, because it's definitely not on my agenda to sell her. Right. I think, you know, I'll definitely campaign through to the World Equestrian Games, and that's always been my goal since I was a little girl. You know, Olympics or World Games, it's always been what I wanted to do, and she's my horse to do it on. So I'd be silly to give that up right then and there. But yeah, look, I'm prepared. If it was a life-changing amount of money, then you know, you'd also be silly not to consider it. Because this is how we make our living, and it's a hard sport, and it's expensive, and you know, people put blood, sweat and tears and a lot of money into getting where you want to go in this sport, and you know, I'll just have to weigh it all up when the time comes. But at the moment, like, we're both very happy holding on to her, and there are other horses that we can sell to if we need. So, you know, there's that
we won't
option.
go there yet.
No.
We'll just rejoice in the day, celebrate the day.
Yeah.
You had a fantastic win again.
Thank you.
Let's just enjoy you on this horse. Just a wonderful Christmas present to win the World Cup in Sydney.
Thank you.
And I'm going to sign off now and wish everybody at home, from Gabby Kuna and myself, the winner with her mare Crystalline, this wonderful World Cup win today at the CSI event. But from myself, Martin Gostelow, and the Equestrian channel, I'm going to bid you farewell for the festive year, a safe new year, a wonderful Christmas. Until next year in 2016, take care and safe riding.